10 Stoic lessons that will transform your life in times of adversity. Stoicism. Have you ever felt completely out of control in the face of adversity? Have you experienced the overwhelming weight of emotions and the feeling that there's no way out? Believe me, you're not alone. We all face moments of crisis, and most of the time, what prevents us from finding peace is our very reaction to those events. But what if I told you there's an ancient philosophy, proven by generations of thinkers, that can not only help you face pain and frustration, but actually transform those challenges into sources of strength and resilience? That philosophy is Stoicism. Stoicism, which originated in ancient Greece, may seem distant from modern life, but in reality, it's more relevant than ever. In a chaotic world where external pressures, criticism, and expectations often dictate the rhythm of our lives, Stoicism serves as a refuge. But how exactly can this philosophy help us in times of adversity? How can we learn to live with more peace, even when everything around us seems to fall apart? In this video, we'll explore 10 powerful Stoic lessons that can help you better control your emotions, find inner peace, and respond with more balance in the face of life's challenges. These lessons, taught by great Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, are not just theoretical. They are practical, applicable in your daily life, and can serve as an essential guide to improving your emotional well-being and quality of life. In this video, you'll learn how to understand what is within your control, the importance of pausing before acting impulsively, how detachment can bring you more peace and freedom, the practice of being grateful for the present, how to cultivate inner strength in times of difficulty. If you're looking for more balance, wisdom, and control over your emotions, this video is for you. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue your journey of self-discovery with Stoicism. Part 1. Understand what is within your control and what is not. The first step to achieving emotional balance, according to Stoicism, is clearly understanding what is within our control and what is beyond it. This may seem simple, but this distinction is crucial for our inner peace. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus was clear. Some things are up to us, others are not. This principle forms the foundation of Stoicism and is the starting point for living a life of serenity in the face of chaos. How many times have you found yourself trying to control something beyond your reach, like the behavior of others, the outcomes of a situation, or even the weather? We often spend our energy trying to control the uncontrollable, and the effect of this is a cycle of frustration and anguish that can easily consume us. When we understand what is within our control, our attitudes, our responses, our choices, and what is not, like external events, we begin to release a heavy emotional burden. Let's imagine for a moment a common situation where you find yourself facing an unexpected turn of events. Suppose you've planned an important event, maybe a meeting or an outdoor gathering, and despite all your precautions, the weather changes and it starts to rain. In this moment, it becomes clear that we don't have control over the weather. However, how we choose to react to this adversity is within our reach. We can lament the situation, get frustrated, or adapt by moving the event to an indoor location, or even view the rain as a welcome change. This doesn't mean we should be passive or accept everything without trying. In fact, true Stoic strength lies in our ability to make conscious decisions, to respond wisely, and not to react impulsively. Once we realize that we cannot control external events, but we can control how we respond to them, we free ourselves to find inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, taught us that life is what happens while we're busy making other plans. So the secret is learning to react calmly to what we cannot control, while maintaining focus on our own mind and actions. When you find yourself in a situation that you cannot control, like an unexpected crisis or a change in plans, ask yourself, what is within my control right now? This question places us in charge of our emotions, allowing us to act more rationally and less reactively. This awareness brings clarity, which in turn reduces stress and gives us room to respond more evenly. Stoicism doesn't tell us to be indifferent to pain or suffering. On the contrary, it teaches us to understand the nature of pain, to face adversity with wisdom, and to choose how we respond to it. By internalizing this distinction, We create a solid foundation for dealing with any challenge that life throws our way. True emotional freedom comes from our ability to decide how to act in the face of obstacles, rather than being governed by them. In practice, this means that when we face problems outside our control, like illness, natural disasters, or the actions of others, we can choose how to respond internally. What we can control are our attitudes, how we handle the difficulties, and how we choose to interpret these situations. Change begins here. By focusing on what we can control, we free ourselves from the weight of things we cannot change. Part 2. Take a step back before acting impulsively. In today's fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded with information, external pressures, and expectations. Our natural reaction is often to act immediately when something affects us. Whether it's a criticism, an unexpected situation, or a difficult challenge, we tend to react impulsively. However, Stoicism teaches us that our true strength doesn't lie in our immediate reaction, but in our ability to take a step back before acting impulsively. This practice of pausing and reflecting is one of the key skills that can bring us peace and wisdom, even in the most challenging situations. In Stoic philosophy, reflection before action isn't just a suggestion, it's a daily practice. The philosopher Seneca emphasized the importance of taking a pause and thinking before making decisions. He warned that haste is the enemy of wisdom, reminding us that when we rush to react, we are often driven by emotions rather than reason. When we allow ourselves time to reflect, we gain clarity and perspective, which leads to better decisions. Our initial response when we face a situation can be one of frustration, anger, or defensiveness. For example, when we receive an upsetting message from a colleague or a friend, our instinct might be to respond immediately with a defensive comment or an argument. But what if, instead of reacting right away, we allowed ourselves a moment to reflect? By taking a moment to reflect, we can ask ourselves questions like, why did this affect me so much? Am I being fair in my judgment? Or, what is the most measured and wise response in this situation? This space for reflection isn't about suppressing our emotions. It's about allowing them to surface consciously and thoughtfully. By practicing this pause, we develop the ability to act with intention, not impulsivity. Acting impulsively often means reacting to the emotional flow without considering the consequences of our response. Stoicism teaches us that we don't have to respond to every emotional stimulus. We can choose how we engage with the world. When we reflect before acting, we not only improve the quality of our responses, but also make our interactions with others more genuine and empathetic. In relationships, whether personal or professional, this practice is crucial. When we take the time to reflect before responding, we become better listeners, better partners, and better friends. We are less likely to respond with anger or frustration, and more likely to respond with understanding and compassion. This, in turn, strengthens our relationships, creating an environment where everyone feels respected and heard. In the professional world, the ability to pause and reflect is equally important. Leaders who practice reflection before making decisions are often more effective and respected. Their choices are grounded in clarity, not rush, and this leads to better outcomes. They understand that good decisions aren't made in haste. They are made with careful thought and consideration. This habit of reflection becomes a key element of effective leadership and success. In the long run, this practice of pausing and reflecting before reacting helps us develop emotional resilience. Instead of being swept away by our immediate emotional responses, we become able to navigate life with greater wisdom and control. Reflection before action isn't just about avoiding hasty decisions. It's about engaging fully with our emotions and making choices that align with our deeper values. Part 3. Free yourself from attachment and find balance. In a world constantly consumed by the pursuit of more things, more recognition, more success, attachment becomes one of the primary sources of human suffering. What happens when we lose something we thought was essential to our happiness? What happens when we are confronted with the reality that we don't have control over what we own, or even over life itself? This is where detachment becomes an essential practice for achieving inner peace. And Stoicism teaches us how to live without being enslaved by our possessions and desires. The philosopher Epictetus once said, Freedom is the ability to let go of what was, accept what is, and have faith in what will be. This teaching is the essence of detachment, learning to accept circumstances as they are, without resistance, and realizing that our happiness should not depend on what we have or the expectations we place on the future. Instead, we must cultivate the ability to live fully in the present, regardless of external conditions. Let's reflect for a moment on the idea of emotional freedom. How many of us are enslaved by the need for more, to achieve more, or to be more? When we can't reach a goal or achieve what we think is essential to our happiness, the frustration sets in. Detachment, however, teaches us that true happiness does not come from what we possess, but from how we respond to life and its changes. It's about recognizing that we can find peace in the present without constantly chasing something external. Detachment does not mean abandoning all our possessions or living in asceticism. On the contrary, it means learning not to be overly attached to the things we have so that we can live more freely without being controlled by our expectations or the fear of losing what we love. Detachment is about liberating ourselves from the tyranny of constant desire, allowing us to appreciate what we have right now without fear of losing it. In practice, this means that when we lose something, be it a beloved object, a relationship, or even a job we care deeply about, we don't let the loss consume us. The pain is natural, but detachment teaches us to acknowledge the pain without allowing it to define our happiness. For example, losing a job, though initially devastating, can open the door to new career opportunities, learning new skills, or even starting our own venture. Similarly, the end of a relationship can lead to personal growth, self-discovery, and deeper connections in the future. By letting go of the attachment to what we have lost, we create space for new possibilities and personal evolution. Detachment also applies to our relationships with others. It doesn't mean we should stop loving or caring for people. Rather, it teaches us to love without the need to control or possess. When we detach ourselves from expectations placed on others, we can appreciate them for who they are, rather than trying to force them into our mold of what we want them to be. This creates healthier, more authentic relationships based on mutual respect and freedom, not on the desire to control or possess. In our professional lives, detachment is equally important. How many of us are consumed by the need for success or the fear of failure? Detachment teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, our choices, and to let go of the attachment to outcomes such as approval or validation from others. When we detach from the obsession with success or failure, we find peace in knowing that we are doing our best, regardless of the external result. In the end, detachment isn't about rejecting life or living in a state of indifference. It's about finding balance and emotional freedom. When we stop clinging to what is transient and impermanent, we can experience true freedom. This peace doesn't depend on what we have or what others think of us, but on how we choose to live according to our deeper values, regardless of external circumstances. Part 4. Ask yourself, will this problem matter in the future? Life is full of moments that trigger intense emotional reactions. Unexpected situations, difficulties at work, or even personal disagreements may seem like major problems in the moment. However, Stoicism teaches us to assess the true importance of our problems by questioning whether what we're dealing with will have a lasting impact on our lives. A powerful question we can ask ourselves is, will this problem matter in the future? When we are immersed in the stress of day-to-day life, it's easy to get lost in small concerns and give them disproportionate weight. But by questioning the future relevance of a situation, we begin to realize that many of these challenges are temporary and will not affect us long-term. For example, imagine you made a mistake at work or had an argument with a friend. In the heat of the moment, the situation may seem like a crisis. However, by asking yourself, will this problem matter in the future? You may come to realize that over time, the situation will be forgotten or naturally resolved. This simple shift in perspective can help reduce emotional tension and allow you to react more calmly and rationally. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, believed our minds should focus on what truly matters. He taught us to not get lost in fleeting details, but to stay focused on what truly contributes to our peace and well-being. The practice of asking, Will this problem matter in the future? Helps us focus on what genuinely deserves our energy and attention. This question is a powerful tool to release the weight of momentary concerns, allowing you to focus on what truly matters in your life. When reflecting on the future impact of a situation, you can assess whether your emotional reaction is proportionate to the problem at hand. Often, we discover that the problem, while urgent in the moment, doesn't carry the importance that our minds assign to it. Through this practice, you start developing a more serene and balanced view of difficulties, allowing small worries to not dominate your mind, and in turn, making wiser decisions that are focused on what truly matters. Part 5. Adopt the habit of writing and reflecting daily. In today's fast-paced world, where we are constantly bombarded with distractions, responsibilities, and external pressures, it's easy to lose connection with ourselves and our emotions. Stoicism, however, offers a simple yet incredibly powerful practice that can help us slow down and reflect, the habit of writing and reflecting daily. Writing daily, as encouraged by the great Stoic philosophers, is a powerful tool for self-awareness, personal growth, and clarity. For Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, his meditations were a form of self-discovery and alignment with his values. He didn't write with the intention of publishing or impressing others, but as a personal exercise to stay grounded in Stoic principles and navigate life's challenges with wisdom. This daily reflection practice allows you to examine your actions, reactions, and emotions with objectivity. Instead of being swept away by the flow of daily experiences, you create space to look back at what happened, how you felt, and what you can learn. Writing gives you the opportunity to externalize your thoughts and gain clarity on your intentions, desires, and behaviors. Most importantly, you become more conscious of your emotional responses, which gives you greater control over how you react to the world. For example, after a difficult conversation with a colleague or a friend, instead of letting the situation linger in your mind, why not write about what happened? Write about your emotions in the moment, how you responded, and why you reacted that way. By doing this, you begin to better understand your motivations and emotional triggers. Over time, this will allow you to detach emotionally from situations, approaching them with more clarity and less impulsivity. This practice of daily reflection and writing also allows you to cultivate gratitude and learning. By reflecting on what went well, what you're thankful for, and what you've learned, you begin to shift your focus to the positive aspects of your life. Writing about challenges and mistakes helps you see them not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. You can learn from your experiences, improving your emotional intelligence and your overall well-being. The benefits of keeping a Stoic journal go beyond simply recording the events of your day. They allow you to shift your perspective, turning pain into lessons and obstacles into opportunities. This practice helps us create a growth mindset, where setbacks are seen not as permanent failures, but as stepping stones for self-improvement. Stoicism teaches us that every challenge presents an opportunity to develop our character and become stronger. In addition, writing daily promotes accountability. By committing to regular reflection, we take responsibility for our reactions and decisions. It becomes harder to ignore repeated mistakes or dismiss moments of poor judgment. Instead, we are encouraged to learn, adapt, and grow. Keeping a Stoic journal is like having a wise, non-judgmental friend by your side, always ready to listen, reflect, and guide you. Ultimately, this practice of writing and reflecting daily becomes a powerful tool for self-transformation. It encourages us to take time for introspection, to review our thoughts and behaviors, and to continuously strive to align ourselves with our deepest values and principles. Through this process, we can grow emotionally and intellectually, and live in a way that is true to ourselves. Part 6. See obstacles as opportunities. The obstacles we face in life are inevitable. From personal setbacks like losing a job or failing an important project, to more profound challenges, such as the loss of a loved one or an existential crisis, we all encounter difficulties. However, the question isn't whether we will face obstacles, but how we choose to respond to them. Stoicism teaches us to see obstacles as opportunities, a core principle that can not only transform the way we face adversity, but also deepen our understanding of true success. The idea that obstacles can propel us forward is a powerful one, and perhaps no philosopher expressed this more clearly than Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This statement reflects a deep understanding of challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as something that holds us back, he invites us to see them as an integral part of the process of growth, capable of guiding us to new paths and opportunities. When you change your perspective, you begin to see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as essential stepping stones on your journey. When we face a difficulty, our natural reaction is often to react with frustration, anger, or fear. We feel victimized by circumstances, believing that what's happening to us is an insurmountable obstacle. But Stoicism teaches us that what truly matters is not what happens to us, but how we choose to respond. For example, losing a job, although initially devastating, can open doors to new career opportunities, help us acquire new skills, or even spark the motivation to start our own business. Similarly, a personal relationship that ends may lead to personal growth, self-discovery, and deeper connections in the future. By seeing obstacles as opportunities, we begin to cultivate resilience and a mindset of growth. One powerful example of this Stoic approach is the way a river flows when it encounters a stone in its path. Instead of stopping, the river finds a way to flow around it, sometimes eroding the stone over time or creating a new path entirely. In the same way, we too can choose to adapt and find creative solutions when faced with challenges, rather than allowing them to halt our progress. Every obstacle presents us with a chance to learn something new, refine our approach, and move forward in ways we never anticipated. Moreover, seeing obstacles as opportunities enhances our emotional resilience. When we stop viewing setbacks as defeats, we start to approach them with curiosity and confidence. Stoicism teaches us to embrace challenges as chances to develop our character, not as signs of failure. By reframing our perspective, we become more adaptable, more willing to take risks, and more capable of persevering through difficult times. In the professional world, for example, leaders who see obstacles as opportunities for innovation tend to be more successful. They don't get bogged down by problems. Instead, they leverage challenges to spark creativity, develop new strategies, and create solutions. The same principle applies to our personal lives. When we approach difficulties with the mindset that they are opportunities for growth, we become more resourceful and better equipped to handle whatever comes our way. In summary, Stoicism teaches us that every obstacle holds the potential to propel us forward if we choose to approach it with the right mindset. The difficulties we face are not just barriers, but the very things that can shape our character, strengthen our resolve, and lead us to new paths we might never have imagined. By viewing obstacles as opportunities, we cultivate a resilience that allows us to face life's challenges with courage and wisdom. Part 7. Cultivate gratitude and appreciate the present. In a world where we are constantly told that we need more things, more status, more success, the practice of gratitude often gets overlooked. However, Stoicism teaches us that true happiness is not found in what we possess or what we can achieve in the future, but in what we already have in the present. Cultivating gratitude is a powerful practice that connects us to the present moment, to the value of simple things, and to what really matters. The philosopher Seneca once said, "True happiness is not having more, but knowing how to appreciate what you have." This quote encapsulates the heart of gratitude in Stoicism. Instead of endlessly pursuing more, we are invited to deeply appreciate what we already possess. Not just material things, but the small things that we often take for granted. A good meal, the warmth of the sun, the sound of rain, the comfort of a cozy home, or the presence of the people we love. Cultivating gratitude in the context of Stoicism doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or difficulties of life. On the contrary, it means recognizing the value of what we have, even when we are facing adversity. Gratitude is a way of looking at life with a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. When we focus on what we have instead of what we lack, our perspective on life shifts radically. Imagine for a moment that you're facing a difficult day at work, a problem at home, or an emotionally draining situation. The natural tendency may be to focus only on what's going wrong, on the frustrations and difficulties. However, by practicing gratitude, you may realize that even in the midst of adversity, there is still much to be grateful for. Perhaps you have friends and family who support you, or maybe you've had small successes along the way that deserve recognition. This practice of gratitude transforms our outlook on life. Instead of focusing on what didn't go right, we begin to notice and appreciate the things that truly matter. The philosopher Epictetus taught that true wealth doesn't come from what we have, but from our ability to appreciate what we already possess. Gratitude teaches us to see life in a more complete and meaningful way, as it connects us to the present and prevents us from living in the future, constantly chasing after something that might never come. Living in the moment, instead of always longing for the next step, is a practice that brings us peace and immediate satisfaction. In addition, gratitude helps us reduce anxiety and stress. When we are constantly concerned about what we don't have or what is out of our control, we lose sight of what truly matters. Practicing gratitude allows us to refocus on what is good in our lives, bringing us back to the present. It's not the quantity of things or success we possess, but our attitude of appreciation for those things that brings us true contentment. However, as Stoicism suggests, gratitude should not be a sporadic or superficial practice. For it to truly transform our lives, we must integrate it into our daily routine. One simple way to do this is to start or end your day by listing 3 things you are grateful for. This can be done every day, in a simple yet effective manner. Over time, this practice becomes a powerful habit that, in addition to improving your immediate emotional state, transforms your long-term outlook. As you do this, you begin to notice the abundance that already exists in your life, even as the world around you constantly changes. Gratitude brings the emotional stability needed to not get lost in difficulties. It's a reminder that, despite challenges, life always has something good to offer. This daily practice of gratitude not only improves our well-being but also strengthens our relationships, as we express our appreciation for the acts of kindness, support, or love we receive from others. Moreover, gratitude has the power to improve our mental and physical health. Studies show that people who practice gratitude regularly have lower levels of depression and anxiety, as well as an increased sense of happiness. The simple act of reflecting on what is good in our lives can change our perspective, making us more optimistic and resilient in the face of adversity. Part 8. Develop inner strength to handle adversity. Life is filled with challenges, and we often find ourselves faced with situations that test our deepest inner strength. From personal suffering to unexpected difficulties, we all encounter moments where our resilience is put to the test. The question is not whether we will face adversity, but how we choose to respond to it. Stoicism teaches us that true inner strength is cultivated by learning how to face adversity with balance, without being overwhelmed by emotions, and without losing sight of our values. In Stoic philosophy, inner strength is not about resisting suffering with rigidity, but about learning to adapt and grow through it. The Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius emphasize that our true ability to face adversity comes from within, from our capacity to maintain control over our emotions and clarity of thought. Even in the most challenging situations, when we face difficulty, it's natural to feel anger, sadness, or frustration. What the Stoics teach us is that these emotions are natural, but what really matters is how we choose to deal with them. True Stoic strength lies in our ability to pause, reflect, and make conscious decisions, rather than reacting impulsively to our feelings. Instead of succumbing to anger when something goes wrong, we can choose a more measured response, focusing on what we can learn from the situation. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Adversity is the opportunity to demonstrate our true nature." This means that when we face difficulty, we have the chance to show our resilience, our ability to stay balanced, and, most importantly, our capacity to grow through adversity. Instead of seeing challenges as something that will break us, we can see them as opportunities to strengthen our character and learn more about our own capacity to adapt and overcome. Inner strength is also related to accepting what we cannot change. In the modern world, we are used to striving for control over everything, but often, we face situations where we have no power over the outcome. Stoicism teaches us to accept what is beyond our control with grace and balance. This does not mean resignation or passivity, but rather the ability to adapt wisely. For example, if you find yourself in a situation that you cannot control, such as a health crisis or an unexpected event, instead of rebelling against the situation, true strength comes from accepting the reality of the situation and focusing on what you can do within it. That may mean taking care of yourself, looking for new opportunities, or adjusting your expectations, but always maintaining control over your reaction. What matters is not what happens to us, but how we choose to respond. Furthermore, this inner strength is built through daily practice. By cultivating a Stoic mindset, where we focus on what we can control and gracefully accept what we cannot, we strengthen our ability to face any challenge life throws our way. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to build resilience, improve our self-confidence, and develop a more solid character. True strength does not come from resisting everything and trying to avoid pain, but from learning to integrate adversity into our lives and using it to grow. Stoicism teaches us to face difficulties with courage and balance, knowing that it is through difficulties that we find the greatest opportunities for growth. By developing this inner strength, we can live with more peace, confidence, and the ability to face life's ups and downs with dignity. Part 9. Practice detachment and find inner peace. In a world constantly surrounded by desires and attachments, more possessions, more status, more success, the practice of detachment becomes essential for finding true inner peace. We live in a society that values materialism and the relentless pursuit of external accomplishments, but Stoicism teaches us that true happiness does not come from what we possess or achieve, but from the ability to free ourselves from the constant craving for more and focus on what really matters. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, does not mean abandoning all our possessions or living in complete asceticism. On the contrary, it means learning not to let our possessions, relationships, or expectations control us. Detachment is the freedom to appreciate what we have without becoming overly attached to it, allowing us to experience life with more balance and serenity, regardless of what we possess or lack. Epictetus, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, once said, "Freedom is the ability to let go of what was, accept what is, and have faith in what will be." This teaching encapsulates the essence of detachment, understanding that, while we can value and appreciate what we have, we should not tie our happiness to things or people. Our happiness and peace should not depend on something external, which is temporary and beyond our control. When we become overly attached to something, a material possession, a person, a goal, we place our sense of security and identity in something fleeting. And when that thing is lost or taken from us, we feel as though we have lost a part of ourselves. Detachment, however, teaches us to accept change and loss with serenity, knowing that our true identity and peace come from within, not from the things or people we hold on to. This doesn't mean we stop caring or loving people and things. Rather, it means learning to love and care without the need to control or possess. When we detach ourselves from the need to control others or hold on to relationships with unrealistic expectations, we can appreciate others for who they are, and not for what we want them to be. This brings authenticity and freedom into our relationships, allowing us to love without clinging. In our professional lives, detachment is also crucial. How often do we become consumed with the need for success or the fear of failure? Detachment helps us focus on what we can control, our actions and choices, and let go of the attachment to results, such as approval or recognition from others. When we detach from the obsession with success or failure, we find peace in knowing that we are doing our best, regardless of the external outcome. In the end, detachment is not about rejecting life or living with indifference, but about finding balance and emotional freedom. When we stop clinging to what is fleeting and impermanent, we find true peace. This peace is not dependent on what we have or on what others think of us, but on how we choose to live in alignment with our core values, regardless of external circumstances. Part 10. Cultivate compassion and strengthen your relationships. In a world that often seems divided and polarized, compassion stands out as one of the most powerful virtues we can cultivate. Not only because it improves our interpersonal relationships, but also because it directly reflects our ability to understand, accept, and help others, regardless of their flaws or differences. Stoicism, which emphasizes self-control and rationality, also teaches us the importance of cultivating compassion as a way to strengthen our human bonds and live in greater harmony. For Stoic philosophers, compassion was not merely a feeling of pity or sympathy, but a deep understanding of our shared humanity. Epictetus, for example, reminded us that we are all fellow travelers, passengers on the same journey. This perspective helps us recognize that everyone experiences challenges, makes mistakes, and seeks happiness, just as we do. True compassion arises when we see the other, not as a source of frustration or conflict, but as someone who shares in the same struggles, fears, and uncertainties. And let's imagine a situation where someone hurts us. Our first reaction may be anger or resentment, but Stoicism challenges us to take a step back and try to understand what motivated the other person's behavior. When we respond with compassion, we seek to understand the circumstances and emotional state of the other person. This approach doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment or being passive, but rather treating the other with empathy, recognizing that we are all flawed and imperfect. Compassion also teaches us to practice forgiveness, not as a way of yielding to injustices, but as a way of releasing our own hearts from the weight of resentment. When we hold on to grudges, we carry an emotional burden that prevents us from living in peace. By practicing forgiveness, we not only free the other person, but also ourselves, allowing us to move forward with a lighter and more harmonious heart. In relationships, whether personal or professional, this practice is crucial. When we take the time to reflect before responding, we become better listeners, better partners, and better friends. We are less likely to respond with anger or frustration, and more likely to respond with understanding and compassion. This, in turn, strengthens our relationships, creating an environment where everyone feels respected and heard. When we focus on cultivating compassion, we also become more attuned to the needs of others. This doesn't mean putting ourselves last or neglecting our own well-being, but rather creating a balance between caring for ourselves and supporting others in a healthy way. As Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Compassion is how we express this kindness in our daily interactions. Additionally, compassion helps us overcome prejudices and judgments that may separate us from others. When we recognize our shared humanity and our ability to suffer, we are more inclined to extend a hand with compassion and kindness to others. Seneca summed up this perspective by saying, "Learn to be indifferent to what doesn't depend on you. That's true freedom." In a world that often seems divided by division and distrust, compassion is a powerful force that unites and strengthens us. When we cultivate compassion, we not only enrich our own lives, but also radiate a sense of calm and clarity to those around us. Compassion helps us build more meaningful, positive relationships based on understanding, acceptance, and respect. By cultivating this quality within ourselves, we create a world that is more compassionate and welcoming for all. Now that you know these 10 Stoic lessons, it's time to put this knowledge into action. Imagine a day where you are completely in control of your emotions, where adversities don't affect you, and you act with wisdom in every moment. What if I told you it's possible to live this way every day? In the next episode, we'll explore powerful practices that will help you achieve just that, and turn each day into the best version of yourself. Stay tuned, because you're about to discover how to make every day a meaningful step towards your inner peace and fullest potential. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next episode. Let's continue this journey of growth and wisdom together. See you soon.